Konnichiwa. Yokoso. My name is Doug Son, and this is Happy Hour with the Lincoln, episode number 27. Today, I will teach you a very valuable lesson of mentorship. My young tyros, by the time this lesson is over, you will be very enlightened. But first, let's drink some Japanese whiskey! Ah! Okay, well, that got pretty interesting there, didn't it? We're starting to get silly now here on Happy Hours, but hey, it's all in good fun. Now, I do know that most of the traditional subtitled martial art films are centered around Chinese culture and Kung Fu, but they have their fair share of Japanese ones out there, and I thought it was pretty cute. Anyway, if you didn't get a chance to see what we're going to be testing today because of my lightning fast martial art hand speed, it is Suntory Toki Japanese Whisky. Now, I've never had Japanese whiskey before, so I'm really excited about it. I heard a lot of great stuff about this, so I'm really excited to give it a shot here. The thing is, it's going to be somewhere distilled along the lines of a scotch. Now, they don't like you to kind of call this a scotch or say it's a scotch. And the reason for it is because we talked about a lot in these past happy hours that scotches have a regional character to them. And what that really means is that if you have an Ardbeg 10 today, that in essence should taste just like an Ardbeg 10 from 25, 50 years ago, because they never changed the distilling process and they never changed the ingredients. So they're really tied to their cultural and regional location. As all things with the Japanese, they continue to make things in our world much better. And it is a work in progress, so they continually change the recipes, modify and hone it to make it better. So that's pretty interesting. I kind of like that there. So let's open it up. Now I'm just being stupid. Oh, sounds good coming out. I'm gonna put this up here. Now, this has a really like an apple smell coming through. I'm gonna hold it up here first. You could see it probably from the bottle that it was in. This is very, very clear. Not as dark as some of the other whiskeys that we have. But that doesn't really mean anything as far as taste, or at least I don't consider it that way. Now, one of the things is I've always had a little bit, when we talked about these last happy hours, I always had this thing about trying to, you could sometimes smell the alcohol or these other flavors stepping on top of it. I have never smelled anything like this. The first thing I smelled is like somebody had like whiskey and an apple, like an apple. I mean, it's really prevalent, at least to me, anyway. I love the smell of this. This is really, I'm over smelling it. You guys are like, okay, drink it already. I'm like, man, it smells good. It's good. So, let's drink. Oh yeah. Wow. Yeah, that's good. Very unique. Very unique. Yeah. Let me have another one. Let me have another one before I make a comment on this. Yeah. I wouldn't say it was a scotch. I wouldn't say it was a bourbon. I wouldn't say it was an Irish whiskey. It's something that's very different than anything I've ever tasted. I actually really like this. There's not any peat or smoke to this scotch. Not scotch. Sorry, I called it scotch. This is Japanese whiskey. Doesn't have any taste like that. And it's not sour. There's a little bit of like a sour smell, like a bourbon in there. But it is very different than anything I've tasted before. I'll tell you what, I like it. It blends well together. This is really good. I wish I was a better taste tester and a better aficionado, and I could tell you exactly what is manifesting inside of my palate today. But I can't. All I can tell you is this is really, really good. And I got this at Costco for like $40. So it may be 50 or 60 somewhere else, or maybe 40. This is a steal for $40. This is a really, really good whiskey. And I'm impressed. I'm impressed. It lived up to what I have heard about this, so I highly recommend it. Maybe a little bit later on I can re-comment on some of the tastes. So let's talk about this Japanese whiskey. Now before I start, you'll notice I have this wonderfully homemade headband on. I wrote these letters on here. I looked this up on the internet, and it's supposed to be my name, Doug. I'm sorry if I'm offending anyone that knows how to speak Japanese and write Japanese. I might have something vulgar on top of here. I apologize. I just copied it off the internet. Is it true? I don't know if it's true or not. I just went with it. So I got to get the glasses on so I can talk to you a little bit about how I look with the glasses combined with the headband. This is ridiculous. So this is from the House of Suntory. According to the website, I'm just going to read it right off of there because there's quite a bit of stuff. It started in 1923. I'm going to try to pronounce it again. I'm sorry if I mispronounce these names. From Shinjiro Tori. Shinjiro Tori. I'll put the name up there. You know, he creates this distillery, making this whiskey. Wanted to make a subtle, refined yet complex whiskey that would suit the delicate palate of the Japanese and enhance their dining experience. Inspired by traditional Scottish whiskey, Tory envisioned a Japanese approach by choosing a terrain and climate completely different from those of Scotland. Tory chose the region of Yamazaki, again, hope I'm pronouncing that right, Kyoto, as the birthplace of Japanese whiskey. Continuing throughout our timeline, we discover the history of Suntory whiskey. So he founds this in 1899. And he invested the whole family fortune in 1918. So he put himself on the line. I mean, that's what you got to do these days to be an entrepreneur. Even back then, you have to do that to be an entrepreneur. So it's not till 1918 he dumps the rest of his money. So I don't really know what happened from like 1899 to 1918. My glasses won't even come on here. I just stick them on. This is getting out of control, isn't it? Anyway, I'm going to try to pronounce this here again. The Yamazaki Distillery is Japan's first single malt whiskey distillery. So this has been around for a long time and eventually was taken over by his son in I think it's the 30s, 1930s. So there's a long documented history here. I mean, there's more than I can read. There's a long documented history on it. So again, that's their philosophy. It's not like a Scotch or a bourbon. Or once they get a recipe, I think that's really awesome. Once they get a recipe, they don't just stick with that and keep it that regional character. They continue to try to improve the whiskey. So I imagine that in 10 years, if I have Suntory whiskey again, Suntory Toki, it'll be different than this. They'll continue to try to improve the taste. And it is very different. And as I said, I really, really like it. Now, let's talk about this gear I'm wearing here, because I got an interesting story. I want to talk about mentors. I'm going to have another drink first. And I love the smell of this stuff. Man, I got to put this down. Because I'm going to drink 5 or 6 of these before we get done. And that'll be humorous for you, but then I will never accomplish anything while telling these stories. So I want to talk about mentors. As you can see, I'm wearing a traditional gi here that came from many years back in my martial arts day. And I've been involved in martial arts in one way or the other from 9 up until I was about 45. It's been a while since I've been actively involved in it. It's something I've never talked about, just never seemed to come up. But it's an interesting story about mentors, and how I got started with the whole thing is also kind of interesting. When I was growing up, when I was like 9 and 10 years old, my parents were too cheap to get us a babysitter. And they worked odd hours. So my mother would work from they didn't work odd hours. They had opposite shifts. My mother would work from 9 in the morning to 5 in the evening, a standard shift. But my dad worked evening shift from 3 p.m. to about midnight every day. Now during our school year, while we were going to school, that was cool because we didn't get home. By the time we caught the bus, my brother and I after school, we would get home about 4:30, and then my mom would show up slightly thereafter. Well, she didn't want us all summer long just sitting around the house flaking out and having these 2 underage kids running around the house tearing it up. And they didn't want to get us a babysitter. So there was this guy in our neighborhood. His name was Dave Magic. If I can find a picture of this guy somehow, I'll put it up. But during the summer, he would teach all of the kids who were on summer break martial arts for free. And it was the perfect schedule because it would be from 3 to 4:30 Monday through Friday. So you showed up at the gymnasium at school, and he would be there, and he would teach you martial arts. So my parents used that as a babysitter. So my dad on his way to work would drop my brother off and I at this martial arts place with Dave Magic. And then on the way, my mom on her way back home would pick us up. So every day we were taking martial arts. Now, he was just a basic school. We just did a bunch of katas and stuff like that and physical exercise. He never got into sparring. And I stayed there taking that all the way up until I'd say when I was 16 years old was when my mother trusted me enough to watch over my brother and, hang out all summer long. So it was interesting how I got it. I kind of liked it. And then I moved into taking a little bit of Kung Fu, but it was just sort of bouncing around from one school to the next. And then I went to some Jiu-Jitsu and so on. And just like everything with life, you start reaching that teenager years, and you got to make a decision what you're going to do. So I got into the corporate world. I've already talked about that. And once I got myself settled there, I was in like my mid-20s. I was like, you know what? I want to go back, and I've taken, just like I've talked about trading, I've done a little of this, I've done a little of that. I want to go back, and I want to finish everything. So I meet this guy when I was in Daytona Beach. His name is Peter Lee, and he was one of the coolest dudes I had ever met. If you see the back of my gear here, I'm going to show it to you. Let's see if you can see it. I don't even think you guys can see it, but there's a little slogan on there. His slogan was, "Life is an art." If you notice, my DVD was called Trading as an Art. I kind of stole that from poor Master Lee, I'm sorry. But, I always liked it. And this was like one of the coolest guys I ever met. The first day I meet him, he's like in his upper 50s. And, I tell him my story, like I've been doing this and that. And we just start doing some sparring. And the cool thing I liked about this guy is he never thought, he ran a Taekwondo place, but he taught Hapkido, Jiu-Jitsu, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. He never had this thing where he thought he knew everything. He always tried to learn other types of martial arts and bring other types of martial arts. One of the things, if any of you have ever taken martial arts, some of their techniques they hold close to their heart, or, some people will say Kung Fu is the way, Jiu-Jitsu is the way. And, there's many different ways that you can do it. Some of it works, some of it's garbage, and so on. But the cool thing about this guy is he was more like a father figure. He would spend hours with us after just talking about things in life. And every time he had like a lesson or he would talk about martial arts, it was this whole body of work that this guy did. And this was like, he started in when he was 18 years old. And he kept doing this. He probably still doing it today in his 70s. It was in hellish shape. And he would have all of his line up in this line. And he would spar us one at a time. One at a time, one at a time, one at a time. And he would do this all for like hours. And he never got tired. I mean, this guy was had to be in his 60s. He was just a stud. Just a total stud. But getting back on point, he was like a mentor. So when I first went into the class, I'm just thinking about, I want to kick some ass. Right? You just want to go in there and chop some boards, break some bricks, choke somebody out, with an Americana or something. I want to get down to business and fight. But he taught so much more about it. It wasn't just about fighting. It was about the lifestyle of being in martial arts. And it was about taking care of your body, taking care of your mind. Some of this stuff may sound tacky, but, it was about living the right kind of life, being respectful to people. And the most important thing about being tough and being able to defend yourself is never having to use your skills. And I've kind of carried that over into my trading, not to sound too philosophical, but it's I've often referred to trading as being a lifestyle too. Because I used to think when I came into trading, I just want hot setups. I just want to make bank. But it's the whole entire lifestyle. And I've often talked about that before. It's the little things behind the scene. Things like living the right kind of lifestyle, taking care of your body, taking care of your mind, being a respectful human being, learning to live with patience, learning to embody all of this stuff in life makes you perform better when it comes to trading. Master Lee taught us that. Being able to be a better human being just makes you better everywhere. It wasn't all about just fighting people. So that was kind of cool. So I haven't been involved. I took a little bit of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, but I've been out for a decade or so, longer than that. So don't ask me. If we get into a fight, I'm probably toast because I'm so old. I did bring some mementos here. I got my black belt that he got me with my name on it. And one of the cool things, too, is after we all got, I'm like fading out of the screen. Check this out. After we all got our black belts that day, he gave us these nice little setups. I still have it. Look at the young Lincoln over there. All young and handsome and studly. There's a picture of Master Lee right there. And down here, too. What a stud. He's probably still there in Daytona Beach teaching people. And like I said, he was never about being brawn, being tough. He just always wanted to learn, you know. And if somebody come in there and gave him a good one, he'd want to learn more. He was always trying to be better, to get better, to act better, and to improve on everything. And that's what I say is cool about being a mentor. I learned from that. I didn't learn just martial arts from Master Lee. I learned all kinds of other stuff, but just about how to be a human being. He might not agree with the scotch. He didn't like that kind of stuff. But still, that's what life is all about. It's just about getting better. It's about being better. It's about improving. And how you improve is you work on all those little small, itsy-bitsy details in your life. You know, it sounds tacky. But, you know, you want to be a great trader. You want to be a great business person. You got to take care of yourself. You got to take care of the mind. You got to take care of the body. You got to be respectful to other people. You got to be respectful of your situation and be grateful for your circumstances. You got to have all of that. And if you are thankful and grateful and you always try to improve, good things are going to happen for you, no matter what path you choose. That was pretty good. Yeah. Anyway, I'm going to have another swig because I like this. I really, really like this. I didn't even check what proof it is, but man, this stuff smells so good. Anyway, something I didn't get a chance to talk about last week is I want to talk about stocks because if you remember, I broke my camera trying to climb some silly waterfall for your entertainment. Now I'm dressing up, you know, and all of this garb for you. So let's talk about stocks, talk about some of the stuff we did during the week and some of the ideas that we have because it was a really good week of trading. And then we'll just kind of go from there.
Okay, well, let's take a quick look here at the market. And I got to say, in my professional opinion, this market is weird. It is really weird. Now, if you've gone back through the last few happy hours, the market's been in somewhat of a slow decline since the State of the Union address right there at the beginning of March. Every rally's been stuffed. You've seen some continual selling. The healthcare bill gets rejected. You get a little thicker process of selling. Then you have the threat of war, Syria, all that good stuff. And the market slides underneath the 50 moving average, which was the first time it was really under the 50 moving average since the election. So there it was, just kind of sitting there, figuring out where it was going to go. And somehow it reaches out for the French elections and decides that is going to be the monumental bullish event that we're going to see. Maybe it's just the way our market thinks, oh, that last election was bullish. I guess this one's going to be good. And you got this massive gap up. I want to open this chart just a little bit more there. You got this huge gap from about 235 opening up at about 237 and kind of holding on to most of the gains. Now, it tried to build on that rally by convincing everyone there was going to be some sort of a tax plan before the week was over. Well, it turns out it was no tax plan. It was just an outline. And since then, the market's kind of gone back to, well, what do I do now? And if you're looking at a technical basis, the gap opening price is roughly 237.87. Keep an eye on that. Maybe you start seeing breakdowns under that. Other negative impactful news. There could be some back testing into this gap back down to the 50 moving average into the 236. Now on the flip side, at this point, I have absolutely no idea what might happen because maybe there's going to be, we're going to fix healthcare this week. Or maybe we'll go to war with somebody. I don't know. It seems really weird right now with this back and forth news story and the way the market's hinging on every single word that's being said. Again, we're just going to have to let it play out. That's all you can really do as traders, which I've mentioned so many times, is nobody can predict the future. You have a series of ideas. certain things happen, and then you react. You have a plan A and a plan B. I've always said, let the market do what it wants. I'll react to it, and that's the way it is. As we move on to stocks, I'd say the week was really defined, which I thought we'd see more bullish activity on Friday because the titans of tech, Google and Amazon, beat estimates and went nuts. I mean, especially, well, first Amazon went up about $50. Crazy enough, that thing sold off. I shouldn't say crazy. I imagine it would sell off a little bit after that. This thing sold off quite a bit, finishing up the day only $6. I mean, you want to talk about some range and a wild ride. We got a great trade on this one. Post-market after earnings was able to get about $20 a share trade gain. Now, I got to be honest with you. I know it seems like everybody does that on Twitter. I haven't had a $20 per share gain on a stock trade in many moons. You know, I've had some great trades, but I usually just hit singles and doubles. I have not knocked one out of the park like this in several years. So that was very, very nice for some of us in the room that were able to grab it. I was hesitant about shorting it because of the cultish nature, but man, look at it. Boy, this thing just, whoever got nabbed between 960 and 962 just chased into a nightmare. And, you know, it just sold right off, right into the buzzer on Friday. You know, it finished up only $6. So this thing gave back a good chunk of that. You know, $40, $45 out of the 50-some dollar move. Amazing. Fortunes were won and lost on that thing. Now, Google was a little bit different, held up most of its gains, but, you know, you can only do so much. You know, when something goes up that much, this is something that we talk about relentlessly in our trade room, and it's on a couple of the educational content as well as the DVD. Your trading career is on range. You're looking for range. And when things get outside of range and get unbalanced like that, they're due for correction. So, you know, if you're fast on your feet, you got some good technical analysis skills, and $900 stocks aren't too expensive for you to trade, you got some mad range here and some great pivots to work with. So keep those on your watch list if you kind of want to watch those. Now, I want to look at some stocks here. One thing I want to carry over here a little bit. I want to go to AAOI first before I go to Wix. This is sort of my drama queen stock of the year. And I have to be honest with you. I've been short and long and short and long. I've been all over the place with this stock, and every longer term projection I've had of this thing has been off. It's just flat, and it's just going to be straight up. I've been off. I first started back here thinking this is a killer short and got squeezed a little bit, you know. Then once it started re-rallying, if you can go back to a few weeks, I'm not going to try to hide it. Once it started ripping back up, I'm like, AAOI is the next ACIA. It's the next NVIDIA. Just the way that it was acting throughout this whole run-up from 20s to 30s to 40s just reminded me so much of what we saw with NVIDIA, what we saw with ACIA. And I thought, this thing's going to make a stab to like $80, isn't it? And then it just starts, you know, getting schooled, getting sold off, you know, and it's like, all right, I guess you're not going to stop. Then I was thinking, okay, you're skipping through ACIA. You're going to miss out on 100. You're going to just be ACIA right now, which now, if you guys are following ACIA, let me open it up for you so you know what I'm talking about. You know, this was another huge mover. This is what I'm talking about. I thought AAOI would turn into be something like this. And I'm like, okay, we're going to skip this. We're going to just start down here and do the whole fade. Okay, I got you. And now it's not doing that. Now you go over here, and I want to open this up just a little bit so you can see what I'm talking about. The thing that interests is every single day, almost this week, it got down into the 50 moving average. If you can see this real close. See it right there? And it just kept pouncing and pouncing off of that. And then the upside, look at this. It got on this 49.96, and it did the same thing. So it starts out like every day. I got 3 days of intraday charting up here. Take a look. So you got this sell-off. Okay, it's done. And then, oh, look, we're going to start bouncing. Starts out the next day. We're selling off, goes into red about $1, you know, hits support, and then just pulls this number, just straight up launch. It's like, okay. And then, you know, it starts off selling off. It's like, okay, it's not going to hold this gain. And then there late in the day, bam, again. So it's like every time this thing just keeps continuing to flash a signal like I'm selling. And then it's like, no, I'm not selling. So the point here is to make this short If it can clear this resistance of 49.50s, 49.80s, I think this is a long for a trade. I say a trade only because you got earnings coming up here on the 4th, and I don't want to get stuck in this thing. I know they already pre-released earnings, and they're supposed to be good, but this thing's got schizo problems. Let's just be honest with it. I think anybody who trades this on a regular basis has had to go around with how weird this thing can be. So I don't know if I'm going to trade it or not just based on that. But it looks like, you know, it's spent more time up here tapping on that resistance than it's been down there on the support. Now, I had wicks up here. This could go either direction. You got two shots here on this. First of all, this is a demon of a stock. It just took off up here, just ripping one day like, look at me, I'm going. And it's been bullish. I mean, this thing has started from 45. You've gone up 100% this year. That's mad. Now, when you look at this one here close, this is sort of like a dirty flag. It's got some ugly candles. You'd want it to be a little bit tighter. It's tried to break out, but it can't do it. My thoughts here is if you get underneath of this little level right here, just right here about this 80.60 to 80, you get some closes down there, you could get a nice drift to probably test about half of this candle down to 77 area. Now, if it starts building over 83s, high 83s to 84. I would not rule out this thing is just going to lay into, because that's what it has been doing. Once it breaks out, it lays in one of these huge old green bars. So it could be a long, it could be a short. It's long if it can close above 83, 85, and it's a short if it gets underneath of $80.22. A little bit of a range there. Again, another one that's got earnings coming up on the 10th. So that's the wild card is, you know, sometimes these stocks run strong into earnings. Sometimes they sell off into earnings. You just kind of have to look at that and see where it may lead you. Who knows? But, you know, it is what it is there. Let's see what else we got. There's a couple of decent plays here. I like this Zeus. You know, it seems strange to short a Zeus with all that power from Mount Olympus, but we worked this trade a little bit in the trade room on Friday, and it was a nice little fade. It's starting to break down a little bit. If it gets too far down, like 21.5, I think the meat of the short is out. You're wanting to stay, you know, up towards 22.63s for an entry and looking for a 21 to $20.50 cover, somewhere in that. And I think last, I want to go back and just throw the honorable mention for Momo. I keep watching Momo, and I'm not sure why I'm watching it. I keep waiting for this breakout over here at 39s. It's just to pounce through it. But again, when you're in earnings season, that's, like I said, the wild card. You don't know if it's going to run into earnings, sell off into earnings, but you always can get these good earnings runs. And if you can get over that hump there that's really, really struggled with over the last couple of weeks, getting on that 39s, you could see that 40 should get taken out quickly. 41s should be a good active stock to make trades with going into earnings, especially a few days prior. You might be able to get some cash flow on that. But who knows? If any of these work out, you might have to just continue to trade on the fly, which I've seen more and more of that lately. Meaning you have a series of stocks that you have lined up, but it seems like every day new stuff's just coming out step by step, and you have to react on the fly, which is what traders do.
Okay, that's going to do it for me in the house of the rising sun and the house of Suntory Whiskey. Again, I think I've said it enough. Impressed. It is just a different taste. And tasting all of these whiskeys, over 26 of these I think it is now, I haven't had anything like this. It's very, very different. And it'll probably take me 6 or 7 of these glasses, which I may end up doing tonight, who knows. It may take me 6 or 7 of these to really get an idea of what's in there. Because I'm not very good at taste testing. I just kind of taste it. I always said I'll never taste it. Like, oh, I don't smell all those hints of salt water or whatever it is, but it's just, I can smell a real fruity smell from this, and it's just a really good taste. It goes down nice and smooth. It's nice and clean. It is a very, very good whiskey. So pick yourself up some. Until the next happy hour, I want to thank everyone for tuning in this time. Take care of yourself. Talk to you soon.